Well, this is JC with chapter 6 of A Detective Story. As you may recall, chapter 5 covered Anne and Billy partly having their conversation, and then had an incident where a young man from a neighboring city came over and, for no apparent reason, at least no reason apparent to anyone there, except maybe Anne, uh, wrecked Ann's car in the middle of the night with the front bumper, the chrome bumper on his pickup. Um, they were at a loss. They had no clues as to who did it. But as you recall, the next day or two, a young man came in and he confessed that he had done it. And of course, Anne asked him, "Why did you come back? We didn't know who you were." And he explained that he found a note on his windshield saying, "You better go tell him what you did." And so he did. He had no idea what was going on, and it was a real mystery to him. So anyhow, he did come in and confess to it, and let Billy take his statement, and then uh, they made some changes about the way Billy and Ann made some changes about the way they were acting with each other, and so they decided to go back to try to be more normal as it was before, so nobody would be suspicious of their motive. Anyhow, with that said, I'll go on into chapter 6. This is chapter 6. This is JC with chapter 6 of A Detective Story. And the name of this subtitle is The Fire. The phone rang again that night, but it wasn't Ann Barton this time. This was at Billy's house. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, and it took several rings to waken Billy out of his almost wet dream of Detective Ann Barton. Woo. He answered with a sleepy, "Hello, who is this?" There was silence on the line for several seconds, and Billy once again asked who was calling. Finally, a voice answered. It was the same voice Billy had heard twice before. He said, "It's me, and I won't call you again." In an instant, Billy was wide awake. "Wait," he said. "Don't hang up." "What do you want to tell me? I'm listening." "I can tell you who killed the mayor," the voice said. "What do you want me to do?" Billy asked. "Remember, you can never tell anyone about this or me. It has to be a secret. If you ever tell anyone, something bad will happen." "I believe you," Billy said. "I won't tell anyone. I'm not married or going with anyone, so there's no worry about me telling anyone accidentally or anything like that." "You've got the hots for Detective Barton," the voice said. "Who are you?" Billy asked. "You don't need to know that or any more about me. Don't ask again." "All right," said Billy. "Now what do you want me to do?" "Okay. Now listen carefully and don't ask no questions. Any questions, I meant. Get together every bit of information you have about the murder." "There isn't any information," Billy said. "Just be quiet and listen. Get the clothes the mayor was wearing and get something from everyone who had anything to do with the investigation, a shirt or glove or something, anything. Then get together all the information there is about all the mayor's friends and family. Write down all you can find out about his neighbors and anyone who was in any club or organization he was in. I want the history of each one of them for the last 3 months. Everything all of them has done, no matter how minor it seems to you. Where they went and how long they were gone and why. Find out and write down everything the mayor has done and everywhere he's gone and why for the last 3 months. I might need more later. Make separate lists of all the people you check on and write it up separately so I can read it easy. Don't leave nothing out, even if it don't seem important to you. Now, do you understand everything?" "I understand, but it'll be hard to do all that without anyone knowing what I'm doing," Billy said. "You got to do it in secret. If anyone finds out what you're doing or that someone beside you is in on it, I won't call back or finish this. I just won't call you anymore." "All right. When I get this stuff together, what do I do with it?" "Put each person's stuff together and mark each bundle and paper with their names. Then put it all in a garbage bag and I'll tell you where to leave it. I'll call you back in a month. It has to be that soon. I can't wait no longer." "What if I can't get it ready that soon?" asked Billy. "Then we'll just forget it," the voice answered. "Bye." And he was gone that quickly. Billy didn't get back to sleep that night. He lay awake in his bed for another hour, trying to doze, but finally got up and made a pot of Folger's coffee. "How am I going to do this?" he asked himself. The answer kept coming up: Ann Barton. Of course, he knew that wasn't a good answer, but he couldn't stop thinking about it. Billy was an enterprising man and had always been able to figure out just about anything once he put his mind to it. Sometimes the answer came quickly and sometimes slowly, but eventually it always came, and when he finally decided on a course of action, he acted with resolve. After Billy had drank his third cup of coffee, he decided what he would do. At 7:30 that morning, Billy walked into the station. Anne was already there at her desk, scribbling on a notepad. They were the only ones in the room. Billy stopped in front of Anne's desk for a long moment. He just stood there, saying nothing at first. Anne looked at him furtively. Finally, Billy said, "Detective, we have to talk." Anne looked intently at Billy for several moments. "Anne, we have to talk," Billy repeated. "It can't be helped. I don't know what else to do." She knew what he meant without asking him. She said, "I'll see you tonight about 9 at the pizza parlor. Make our meeting look like an accident." Billy was there at 8:45, sitting at a table when Anne walked in. He had drank a pitcher of beer already. It seemed to be at least 2 sheets in the wind, maybe 3. "Hey, Dick," he shouted when he saw her. "I mean, Private Dick. No, I mean, Public Dick. Well, hell, how about Detective Ms. Barton, ma'am?" "Christ," Anne said. "How long have you been drinking?" she asked. "You look plowed." "Not long," Billy answered. His words were slurred, and Anne knew that he had downed a considerable amount of beer. People were watching and getting a real kick out of Billy. It was public knowledge that Billy had a huge crush on Anne Barton, Tulsa City's newest detective. They also knew that the detective didn't feel the same way about Tulsa City's youngest and newest police officer. Billy started to rise from his chair and greet Anne when she came toward him. It didn't work out too well, though. Billy's right foot caught a rung in the chair and he pitched forward, striking his head on the corner of the next table. He landed with a crash that tipped the table over onto his left arm. The people who had been sitting there were dancing and had left a half pitcher of beer and 2 glasses on the table. The pitcher flipped over and landed and topped down on Billy's head and shoulder with a clunk, and beer drenched him from his head down. "Shit," mumbled Billy. Damn it all. I guess it tripped." Anne hurried to where Billy was lying and leaned down and touched his arm. "Are you all right?" she asked. She sounded genuinely concerned, and Billy managed to put a hurt look on his face. "No, I'm not," he started to say, but it didn't come out right. His hurt look quickly turned to a grin, and he began to laugh. "Shit," he laughed. "I must have been born under the wrong sign. I was just trying to be polite." Anne rose to a standing position and watched as Billy struggled to regain his feet. After unwrapping from a chair, he stood the chair and table back upright and shouted to the bartender, "Set these folks up another pitcher of beer on me." Then he very convincingly staggered backwards and collapsed into a chair. His head showed a smudge of blood where it hit the table when he fell. Now it was dripping down his forehead. A big man walked over to him and said, "Hey, fella, you need to sober up and get that head looked at." As he spoke, he reached toward Billy. Billy lurched forward and shoved the man backwards. "I don't need nothing," he shouted. The big man backed toward the counter and said, "I was just trying to help." "I don't need your help," Billy shouted drunkenly. "I can take care of myself." Just then, Anne, who had been standing next to Billy, grabbed him by the arm and shoulder and spun him around with his back to her. She deftly pulled his arm up behind his back and said, "Settle down, officer, or you'll wind up behind your own bars." Billy struggled for a second, then submitted to Anne's force. "All right," he slurred. "I'll go. Just turn me loose." Anne's voice softened and she said, "I'll take you to the clinic. We'll get your head looked after, okay?" "Okay," Billy answered meekly, and they left the pizza parlor.